I'd like to say congratulate you on making a beautiful film. It really brought back a lot of memories of my working with Stanley, and what it really underlined for me, he wasn't only just a great filmmaker, a genius in that way, but he was an extraordinary philosopher. I think that touched me more than anything, is to have realized, perhaps more than when I made the film, what an extraordinary philosopher he was. And I think this film has underlined that in a remarkable way.
Bueno, antes de nada quiero decir que gracias al canal de cine, porque es realmente nuestro alma mater, el origen de los proyectos, los que estamos haciendo parten de TCM, siempre buscamos algún tipo de tema interesante dentro de la historia del cine. Nos encontramos con 2001, con el 50 aniversario, y buscamos un enfoque un poco diferente a través de Javier Morales, que es un director creativo, nos propuso unas ideas, y hemos desarrollado este documental y que intentamos partir de la entrevista. Lo que pasa es que realmente era complicado recrearla porque no existe. Hicimos una gran investigación sobre las hojas, estuve investigando a ver si había material rodado, había alguna grabación, no había nada. Entonces nos planteamos recrearla de alguna manera. La imagen real nos parecía que era un recurso complicado, porque realmente ¿quién va a hacer la imagen de Kubrick? ¿No? Es complicado recuperar a su figura, ¿no? No sé qué decir. Hacer una aproximación generando todo un universo alrededor de la entrevista. El primer punto de encontrar una voz que fuera legítimamente, o pudiera legitimarse, es recuperar la voz de Kubrick. Y enseguida pensamos en él, evidentemente. Y la verdad es que tengo que decir que es una persona encantadora, un gran profesional, y hemos sido un placer trabajar con él. Es realmente toda una experiencia. Y a partir de él, pues fuimos ir un poco buscando talento que pudiera recrear diferentes partes de la entrevista. Hemos trabajado con artistas 2D, 3D, Nacho Bauer, César Ruiz, Osorio, no quiero, es imposible porque como veis es muy compleja, entonces hay muchas personas que han colaborado, todos ellos fantásticos. No quiero olvidar la banda sonora, Remate y Guillermo han hecho un trabajo espectacular. Para mí creo que crea el alma de la... consigue esa entrevista que se queda un poco fragmentada quizás, porque es muy compleja, hemos ido extractando, le da un hilo que lo une todo. Entonces, bueno, básicamente para nosotros creo que ha sido una experiencia preciosa. Ha sido fantástico recuperar este Kubrick, quizás menos frío, de lo que, aunque sea frío en algún momento de su entrevista. Yo creo que era un humanista, una persona profundamente preocupada por el ser humano, y yo creo que hemos concluido un poco, llevando un poco ese espíritu en los últimos planos, que una pequeña apuesta que hemos hecho también ahí es, frente a lo sintético de construir nuestro discurso, hemos acabado con imágenes de gente conocida, incluso con metraje, para decir que esto es la vida. Realmente no es un experimento artístico, esto nos habla de la vida y hay que aplicarlo en algo, ¿no? Entonces, pues bueno, básicamente buscar nuestro destello en la oscuridad, que es un poco la idea, lo que ha generado el proyecto y lo que pretendemos un poco que el espectador capte del proyecto.
Interesting. Well, I'll try to answer the first question. The experience of working with Stanley, and I think this is captured, I tried to make it conversational so it didn't sound like I was reading something, but my voice is not the same as Stanley Kubrick, and I felt it would have been wrong to try to imitate exactly how he sounded. I would like to just make the point that, you know, the film, when it came out, had some negative response. 250 people walked out of the New York premiere of this film, and 50% of the critics loved it, the other 50% hated it. And I'd like to explain that what Stanley has done, he's made a new kind of film. And one of the answers he had given about what the film means was, how do you explain a Beethoven symphony? A Beethoven symphony is felt with the gut. Every person who hears a Beethoven symphony has his own personal response emotionally, and no two would be exactly the same, because we bring our own experience, our own life experience to the experience of hearing that music. And what Stanley has done with 2001 is have a journey that each person will take that is different. And that's why he never over-explains what the film means, because it has many different meanings depending on the individual who sees the film. I'm not sure I've answered his question, but reality in many ways has caught up with some of the imageries and the ideas of this film. We now have iPads. Well, there's an iPad that we hear the interview with the BBC. We're watching ourselves on an iPad. And of course, we don't have those huge rooms that I took when I took Hal apart and just took his brain apart. Of course, I was in this huge room, and today it's a laptop. We don't have to do that. So perhaps it didn't quite live up to, didn't quite predict the way it was going to be. But a lot of things, Stanley Kubrick had the advice of 40 different corporations who would pass on to him their best guess in terms of what the result of their particular specialty would be in the year 2001. Even a famous game company that produced Monopoly. I don't know if you have Monopoly in this country. Well, Monopoly was invented by a company called Parker Brothers Games. And Parker Brothers Games, not only do they play chess in the film, but they shot a film with me playing a brand new game that they invented, which was, Stanley cut it, he did not use it in the film, but we filmed me playing a game called Universe. But, the centrifuge, that great wheel that was the living quarters of the crew, was made by Vickers Armstrong. Vickers Armstrong was a famous engineering company. They didn't really have typical film studio set builders. They had people that really were involved with building real structures in the world. Question, where was I and what was happening when I received the call to do the film? I was in London filming a film called Bunny Lake is Missing with Laurence Olivier and Carol Lindley, directed by Otto Preminger, and which was not a pleasant experience, by the way. And I had, at the end of the day of shooting one day, I came home and my wife said, call your agent. So I called my agent and he said, are you sitting down? And I said, no, why? And he said, well, you've just been offered the lead in Stanley Kubrick's next film. And I just about fell off the chair. I was a huge Stanley Kubrick fan. When I was in drama school, someone said there's this great war picture down the street with Kirk Douglas. So I went down to see it. It was a film called The Paths of Glory, which, by the way, is my favorite Kubrick film. And my jaw dropped to my feet when in the first 3 minutes of the film. It was an extraordinary film, and of course I was an instant Stanley Kubrick fan and saw everything he did, Spartacus and The Killing and Lolita and Dr. Strangelove, etc. So I knew that I had been offered a film with one of the great filmmakers, and I was thrilled. And I'm sorry, the second part of the question. Well, I've made 30 feature films, and there are only a few that I'm particularly proud of. This 2001 obviously being one of them. And I must say, it's the film that people most know me by. It wasn't necessarily my favorite performing film, not because I wasn't pleased with my work, but as an actor, I'm always interested in roles that take me way away from who I am. That's a big challenge. But the excitement of working with this genius overcame any, if one can only be known for one thing, one could do a lot worse than 2001: A Space Odyssey.